Hello and welcome to the Dark Mount video review for Transformers 4 Age of Extinction Generations Crosshairs. Now this is one of the figures I was looking forward to getting the most, and I'll be perfectly honest, I kind of wanted to laugh about other people's complaints. I thought that this was going to be a figure that people were complaining about for no reason, that they had seen a picture and they didn't like something that Hasbro or Takara was trying out as kind of like a little test, and they were going to badmouth it before they even saw it. And I was kind of right and kind of wrong, so we'll get into the finer points of each one during the review, I'm sure. But before we start, I would like to point out something. I have no paint on this wheel, so I don't know if this is some kind of super special variant, but I haven't seen anyone else talking about not getting paint on their wheel, so that's cool. I usually don't actually mind stuff like that, because that's just kind of funny. If I really care, I could just paint it silver myself. But yeah, he's a cool little car. I wish that they had done some kind of paint behind this glass here so that these weren't just green. Whatever. And obviously, like a lot of other people, I wish they had painted both sides. Although, if I ever need to display him in car mode, I'll just display him like that. It's not that big of a deal, guys. And I think you can tell by some pictures of the car release, since the painting is on the arms, that it looks like there's paint on both sides. Oh yeah, also, here's the robot. You can just kind of completely see him. So, I don't know if you watched my Bumblebee review, but I talked quickly about the simplification of these figures and how it's kind of really random. Some figures are really super simplified, like they just are basically robots in shells. And then some of them are more complicated, like the Bumblebee and like some of the Dinobots, which have a lot more moving parts and steps and stuff, so I don't really know how that's all being decided as to which figures get more simplified and which don't. Here he is, next to Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. So they're pretty, well, I don't know. This guy should obviously be bigger. It's not terrible. And here he is with a typical Dark of the Moon deluxe figure, in this case Nitro Bumblebee. So you can see that the scale is not that different. They didn't really make these figures that much smaller. A lot of people are saying, oh, they made them so much smaller. I think they're just comparing them to High Octane Bumblebee, who is very, very small, even compared to other figures in the line. Now, for transformation, I'm going to want to come under here and pop his little gun out. And that pegs on to either knee. And then what you are going to want to do is, there's a little peg right there. Just pop it out like that. And do the same thing on the other side. And I think you're going to want to be very careful of these because, and I mentioned this on my Bumblebee review, this is another instance where they have you pegging something in to a hole that is just kind of suspended out in the middle of nowhere with plastic. They do this on a multitude of toys in this line, and it's making me really nervous, especially because almost every time they're doing it with clear plastic, which is notoriously fragile. So that makes me a little concerned. that might break that over a while. I don't know. But unpeg those, like that. And then these elbows, or not elbows, shoulders, they're pegged into this middle section right here on the sides here. And they're also pegged in up here. And what you're going to want to do is take the entire thing, and it's going to kind of slide downwards like this. I mean, obviously not that far, but it moves down and around. It kind of swings downwards. So it's going to pull away from this body and also slide out from that peg and then kind of down around the body. So, like that. And I'll show it from the back this time. Pull out and down and around. So once you have them like that, you have a decent amount of clearance. You can just kind of wiggle this whole back part down and around like that. Once you're done that, you can just straighten these arms straight out, and I think, no, just leave those closed for now. Then come around here, and this entire section, so this window all the way down this line and all the way down over here, is all one piece of plastic, and it's all one piece of see-through plastic. So what you can do is put your finger on the wheel here and just lightly nudge this whole piece up like that, and it will actually separate away from this. So it kind of flips on top of that and plugs in with that peg into that hole. And you just want to angle that out like that, along with the hand and the arm. Do the same thing on the other side. Like that. And then these two sections right here will separate, but not until you unplug this, which is also all clear plastic. So I really hope this toy doesn't break in a year. So there's two tabs right here that plug straight down. So you want to pull them out like that, and then just bring that up out of your way. And then these two sections will split, rotate, rotate. And then you can pull these little heel spurs out, if you can. And flatten the foot out. And there you have the legs. Then you will see that these arms are actually kind of bent at a very unnatural angle. They come out, go up, and then go forward. What you're going to want to do is straighten them out. But I'm going to pull this out first, sorry. And then you can straighten them out. So pull this wheel bit out, and then straighten the arm out. Now, just bend this back again to get it out of your way. You'll see this entire back portion here, where you have, this is the figure, and this is the spine. The entire back portion will actually pivot out. And then you want to fold out these rubber bits right here. And these are the parts that everyone's kind of losing their mind about. They plug into the chest up here, and they're supposed to simulate kind of the trench coat that he has. And they also cover up the gun storage, which is on either side here, which you can do in alt mode. A couple people have said that you can't store them in alt mode. I don't know what they're talking about. Yes, you can. That's what they're for. So you can get kind of a better look at the mechanism in here. You have this, you have these, and they also are on in and outward swivels. So you have a decent amount of movement in this little fake trench coat thing that they're trying to do. I see where they're going with it. I don't necessarily hate it as much as everyone else does. I don't think they pulled it off as well as they could have, It is a little cumbersome and it doesn't always plug in perfectly, which is a little frustrating. And he also has a weird hole in his butt, which is like not weird at all. So grab these little rubber bits, and you can kind of see they're kind of like hammer shaped, and they will fit into these little slots in the pectoral area on the robot. And they definitely take some doing to get in there. Once you have those in, you can kind of position all the back and all the sides and stuff however you want. You need to be a little careful of how you position it, because if you wiggle them around too much or pull them out too much, it will kind of separate the rubber thing from the chest and ruin the illusion. Ruin. Yeah. And then he comes with his weapons. He comes with only one Tech 9, unfortunately, even though he had 2 in the trailer. I guess they couldn't figure out a way to store 2 in vehicle mode? I don't know. Not that that's ever stopped them from including oversized weapons before. So, give him his Tech 9. And then what I do, and apparently also what Bolt Matrix, I think it was, does, I saw in his video, is that I have just been taking both of these and plugging them kind of double barrel style into his hand. Which gives him kind of like a little Bumblebee-esque double blaster. And also just lets you store both weapons in use, which I like. So, here is Crosshairs in his robot mode. He's pretty cool. Again, I don't think they pulled off the trench coat as well as they could have. Then again, in typical Michael Bay fashion, the designs for this new movie really don't translate well to actual transforming robots. I mean, they don't even really look like Transformers. I like the designs, but they're not really plausible. And I'll be perfectly honest, Crosshairs in the movie seems like the most plausible because at least he has the shell hanging off of him. Like Galvatron, they're going to have to cheat all over the place with these designs because I have no idea how that thing is going to transform into a truck. I mean, I have no clue how that's going to work. So at least this guy has some car on him. I mean, he's got visible car parts. He looks like a Transformer versus just a robot. So, I guess that's cool. I do like when things incorporate car parts, so I like what they tried to do here. I think it was an interesting idea. I don't necessarily think it came across as well as it could have, but it also didn't come across as poorly as it could have. We've seen some pretty terrible gimmicks from Hasbro and Takara over the years, and this is nowhere near the worst of them, so I'm not really complaining. It doesn't make him back heavy at all. He stands very solidly. You can tuck these little rubber things back under there if you kind of want to pretend they don't exist. A couple people have said that it makes it difficult to transform, but you really just need to, kind of like how I had the arms and these parts spread out, and then did those 2 bits last. That's really just what you have to do. You have to transform the whole front and back end of the car, and then just take those, fold them in, make sure they're both pointed out in an angle, fold those 2 things in. They'll fit perfectly well with the gun stored underneath and the rubber. You won't have any issues, and then you can just fold the 2 arms in and attach them, and it's really not that complicated. So, I do recommend this figure. He could have been served with a little bit more paint, like the red and green, or red and blue, or whatever, the goggles that he has. It would have been cool if all of my tires were painted, I guess. But I've got to be honest, I really do like this figure. For Articulation, he really does not have much head movement. It is technically on a ball joint, but you can't really do much of anything with it. His shoulders have upward and downward swivel as well as rotation, but a lot of the kibble on him gets kind of smashed into stuff, so you gotta be really careful. His arm moves independently of this shoulder bit, and then you have an upper arm swivel and a double joint, which is mostly for transformation, but you have this top bend and this bottom bend, so he does have double jointed elbow. And you do have wrist swivel. The legs also have a decent amount of motion. And like I said, even with all the kibble, it does kind of get out of your way pretty easily. So you have outward swivel. You have an above the knee swivel and knee bend and kind of like foot movement, but it's mostly for transformation. And you're not going to be able to bend the foot past about there and still have him use it because this green part will stick out. So you can get him, I guess kind of like that, which that's not bad. That's a decent amount of variance for the foot. And this green bit also for some reason moves independently from the foot, which doesn't really serve any purpose, so who knows. This back part, like I said, is articulated back and forth on its own. Then this part can move, and this whole flap can flap. These things will go out, they will turn, and they will also swivel in the full back swivel like that. And that's about it. So, like I said earlier in the review, I thought I was going to get this guy, and these were going to be totally awesome, and I was just going to laugh at people complaining about him. Which to a certain extent kind of has happened, because I think this is a really good toy. These things are not anywhere near as irritating or cumbersome as people are saying they are. They don't get in the way very much. You can move, and the stuff moves out of your way. I mean, I'm not even having any problems with these popping out of their little sockets, so they really don't get in the way at all. They just don't. I understand if someone doesn't like them, that makes sense to me. It's definitely kind of a strange look to have giant car parts hanging off of a robot, but it does not impede the actual functionality of the toy as much as people seem to think it does or are claiming it does. I say claiming because I honestly don't know how much of them have had the thing in hand. I think this is a case of people looking at something and going, oh, that's going to be terrible, and then stating that as if it's fact, which frankly people do a lot with stuff that they've just seen pictures of. So again, take that for what you will, but I think this is a decent figure. And apparently I was even getting him to stand pretty well when I folded up his little heel spur at some point. So he's pretty balanced too for having a giant car hanging off of him. But yeah, there definitely are a couple ways. Like this rubber does, I mean, it doesn't work perfectly, but it works. It works. So again, I understand if people don't like the way it looks, that makes sense to me, but I really don't think it impedes the actual functionality of the figure enough to say it's a detractor. Maybe that's just my experience, but that's all I can really judge a figure on is my own experience, and I think this is a pretty good figure. for a couple size comparisons, here he is with High Octane Bumblebee, who is in kind of a silly pose, sorry about that. So they're about the same size, which is weird because he's much larger in car mode. This guy's just really compact in his car mode. It's kind of deceiving. You'd expect him to turn out to be very tiny or something. Here he is with Deluxe Scorn. And again, about the same size. Scorn's a little bit taller at the head, but general bot size, they're around the same. All in all, I think this is a good figure. It's a little bit more simple than I would have liked. I would have liked to see maybe some more transforming in the torso, or maybe some more transforming back here, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know. I like what they tried to do, so I don't want to say, oh, all this kibble should transform, because then it would not be the trench coat. But I wish some of it would have. I don't know. I wish at least like these arm panels could have flipped up or something. I mean, it just seems like they went for a much lower parts count on this. But then again, most of the car bits are clear plastic that required paint, so it's possible that just the paint apps on this ate up a lot of the budget. I don't know. You can kind of see it under here. This whole thing is clear plastic, and all of these are clear plastic, and that's a lot of painted clear plastic. So it's possible they just couldn't do much on the engineering front. But yeah, I really like this figure. I'm a fan of this line so far. Again, I like it for what it is. They're toys. They're fun. They are not super complicated, so that's kind of disappointing to me because I like complicated Transformers, but I also like other Transformers that aren't super complicated, so whatever. I wish he had gotten a little more paint. That's probably the one thing I would say that's genuinely a complaint. That even if it was just a couple little things here and there, I don't need the red in here like Takara has and all that, and even the second half of the car paint I can deal with. I would have really loved some more bot mode paint in terms of the goggles and the green hair and stuff like that. If he got his little mutton chops painted green and his goggles properly painted silver with the blue and red, I would have been very, very happy with this toy. So I might just do that. I might just paint his little mutton chops and his goggles and call it a day. But so far this line is definitely doing it for me. I know a lot of people don't like it. I can understand why, but I think it's decent. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching.